Kevin Vitale is one of the true superstars in the private club business, and he is our guest on this episode of Larry the Golf Guy. He recently retired after a 22-year run as the general manager, chief operating officer of Baltusrol Golf Club, which of course is an iconic club, one of the great clubs of the world, located in northern New Jersey. But we talked with Kevin about how his upbringing was in the Boston area, how he got started in the hospitality industry, and how that then migrated over to his start in the club industry and what his career has been like. And of course, we spend a fair amount of time talking about the highlights of his 22-year run leading Baltusrol. We also get Kevin's views on some of the issues facing private clubs today and his thoughts on best practices in that regard. So all of that and more upcoming next with Kevin Vitale on this episode of Larry the Golf Guy. Well, welcome to another edition of Larry the Golf Guy, and I am so pleased today to welcome to the podcast Kevin Vitale, who is really one of the giants in the club business, and we'll talk about his experiences, which included a lengthy time at the iconic Baltusrol Golf Club in northern New Jersey. But we'll get to all that and much more. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Very happy to be here. Looking forward to it.
So, as I often like to do with my guests, to sort of provide a little context for our listeners, maybe let us know kind of where you grew up and kind of what your first jobs were and how you kind of got started.
So I grew up in Massachusetts. We had a big week with the Patriots again.
Yeah, for
We're
sure.
back
I
on
was thinking
top.
about so you and I are older. I was thinking about the Tuck game, right, with Brady and the Snow, that they got the first dynasty started. Who knows? Maybe the Snow will get it started again.
Yeah, I won't call it a dynasty yet, but it's a surprise and looking forward to it in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely. So you were in the Boston area, and what were your kind of initial jobs, and how did you end up? I know you ultimately got working in sort of the hospitality business from the restaurant standpoint, but maybe tell our listeners kind of how that all happened.
Well, my first job started when I was in sixth grade. I grew up in a household where my mother passed early.
Sorry.
And my dad didn't have a lot of money for that. But you know what? I never experienced that or ever thought about it that way. I thought every sixth grader had to start working. And it was a paper route in
Okay.
the morning.
Yeah.
And I did that for a number of years. But truthfully, that allowed us some extra income
Hmm.
for just simple things, but it was important. And it's just a quick story.
Yeah, sure, please.
So I had a three-speed Schwinn with the baskets on the side, and I'd put the papers in there. I'd
Yeah.
go to the place and get the papers, and I'd do my paper route. And the very end of the last street was a dog.
Mm.
And it was just a battle of getting the paper there, and then the race started. He'd
Oh
start
boy.
chasing me,
Yeah, sure.
and the Schwinn three-speed. There was a possibility that the chain would come off once I hit third gear.
Oh boy.
And if the chain came off, he won. And if the chain stayed on, I won. Um, so it was just something that I had to look forward to every day,
Daily battle, right?
daily battle. And from there, I again had jobs all throughout my time growing up. But there was a point where I was working in a pizza shop.
Hmm.
I can't remember. I was in high school at the time, and I didn't feel like it was a job. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed engaging with the customers. I liked handling the food product.
Hmm.
I enjoyed the busyness when, the phone would be ringing and you got to get the orders in and stay multitasking.
Right.
So, in an early age, I believe that was kind of how I was indoctrined into this. Then through high school, and then going to college. So I had to go to a junior college first because I couldn't afford anything. I was really on my own at that point,
Hmm.
17, 18 years old.
Hmm.
So I had to go to a junior college. I was living with two of my friends
Okay.
on top of Gates Market. Uh,
Okay.
the total rent was $280, so you can imagine what that looked like. But I had to work full time. So I went to school during the day and then I worked at night. And I started working for a company called Barrett's. They had, three or four restaurants, but they were growing. And I was waiting tables, bussing tables. Then I became a bartender. In bartender, you can make some money.
Yep.
And
Sure.
so when I finished the 2-year junior college, I went to Stonehill College. I had to take out some loans, but I made some money as well for that. So it was a little interesting getting home 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning
Wow, that's hard.
and getting up
Yeah.
at 9 o'clock for class. I still thought it was normal through all that and graduated. And Frank Barrett, the owner, offered me a full-time job.
Wow.
Didn't know anything else, really wasn't, looking for anything else. And I stayed with Frank in that company for 12 years.
Wow. Okay.
I started running their flagship restaurant, Barrett's on Boston Harbor. View was the Constitution, and he made me a partner.
Wow. That's
Uh,
impressive at a young age.
yeah, it was. And I never forget because he taught me everything. He taught me how to run a club from a business standpoint and from a hospitality standpoint. And that's really how I get in the business. I think most of us, or a lot of us, it isn't a career that you look at. You just have fallen into it with the
Right.
hospitality business. And
Right.
that's really
Right.
how I started.
Great. And so you're doing that. So, 12 years, you're into your, I guess, early 30s probably at that point. How did the pivot happen that you end up going from that to, getting into the club world?
Well, I didn't go right from the restaurant world to the club world. I was recruited by a gentleman that had resorts down the Cape. He actually had 30 properties.
Okay.
Some were apartments, some were restaurants, two inns down there.
Yeah.
And I went to work for him. It was a pay increase, and I quickly realized that it was something different. Not the operation, I was fine with that. He needed help. I understood how to do that. Uh, but ethically, there
Hmm.
was some things that I knew were a problem
Got it.
to
Yeah.
a point where I was signing documents
Oh boy.
that I knew I shouldn't be signing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so I went to my wife and I said, I need to address this.
Right.
I went to him and said, I'm not going to sign any more of these documents. That's just not what I'm going to be doing. He said to me, if you don't sign these documents or do what your job is, then you won't have a job. That's the first time in my life that I was without a job. I said, that's I guess what's going to happen. That's where I got into the club business. Went to my old executive chef of Barrett's and said, here's what's happened. He said, I think you'd be good in the club business. I had no idea what the club business is. He said, I know the general manager of Weston Golf Club
Yep.
in Western Massachusetts, and let me see if he'll talk to you. As you know, in this business, the general managers share everything. They help everybody.
Yeah. They do.
And that
It's a
was new
very,
to me. He
yeah.
brought me to the gentleman that was running the New England chapter's opening listing. Talked to him, and he said, well, let me see what I can do. I said, I'd really like to meet you. And he kind of pushed back, and he finally said, okay. Went up there, met with him. He brought me home to dinner with him and his wife.
Wow. Wow.
And I had a great relationship with them. And he said, there's this small club in Western Massachusetts. They need a lot of help. And they're looking for a new general manager. Put my resume in, got the call. The club was doing it itself. It's a small club.
Sure.
And the president, Bernie Gold, at the time said, you're overqualified. And I said, okay, but I really want to get in this business. He goes, but you're really overqualified for this. we struck up a conversation. I met with the search company, excuse me, the search committee, and I got the job for a lot less money. So this was a cut and pay.
And you're
Uh,
moving across the state too.
oh, my wife says, "Are you sure we're not going through a midlife crisis on this?" Two in diapers, two kids in diapers. We sold the house and we just rented up there in the beginning. And I could see there was all sorts of opportunity of making this club better. It was
Yeah,
really dysfunctional in many ways, but they wanted more.
right.
And the thing that really helped, they just were starting the Friendlies LPGA Classic,
Ah, right. Okay.
but they didn't start. The contract wasn't signed yet. I was able to negotiate a very strong contract that helped the club because the club needed revenue, it needed money for that. And that really helped in the beginning of things we needed to do. So we were able to do some projects. We were able to elevate the services of the club, particularly the food they always enjoyed, but the services from the front of the house, we increased that. We brand a brand new pool for them. They were so excited. We did a casual dining. We increased revenues and profit. Um, but I knew there was going to be more, and they did too. So after 3 years, 3 or 4 years, Hartford Club came up for the position. Steve Clemens, a long-time strong manager, went out to Cherry Hills in
Yeah,
Colorado. Timing can be everything, Larry.
for
They went
sure.
through the process with John Sibble, and the club said, we don't like any of the candidates. John threw his hands up in the air and said, well, I'm kind of done with you. I'm frustrated. And that's when my resume went in. So I was late to the party. And John called me and said, look, this club's looking for this. I'll set up an interview with you. Through the whole process, I never met John. He
Wow.
was not part of it. I was
Wow.
directly
Interesting.
with the executive committee. And we connected, understood what they were looking for. I think they were happy that I was from Boston. I think they were happy that I really had a strong restaurant background, and I got the job. The
Wow.
nice thing about that
Yeah.
is they were well functioned. They had strong
Yeah.
department heads. They had a very good operation. They needed work. The capital was deferred, but it allowed me to see a well-run club, which really was impactful to me. It made me understand the business a lot better. Was there for 4 years. Baltusrol came up.
Mm,
Timing, Larry, is everything. One of the things Steve Clemens told me was, you're great here, but the one person you never, ever want to become president was, and I won't mention his name.
sure, of course.
3 years in the club,
He becomes
he was on the
president.
docket to become president.
Yeah.
And I realized that this could be an issue. Baltusrol comes up, one of the iconic clubs in the country.
Without question.
And so I spent a huge amount of time getting to know Baltusrol, understanding Baltusrol, also connecting with people in the industry that could help me connect to the search chair. Copland Keebler at that time had it. It was actually just Copland at the time. And so I did everything in my power to try to get Dick to see me. And I don't know if you know Dick. He's a real great guy, but
Yeah.
strong
Strong
personality.
personality. Yeah. Yeah.
And he finally called me and said, if I get another phone call from somebody telling that you have to meet with Kevin Vitale, he goes, I'm going to scream. Let's meet. I'll give you 10 minutes down at the conference. And the conference was in Miami. Went down there, I had all my documents, all my presentations. We met for a half hour. And I was able to get into the process. I credit Dick because Dick really got me into the interview. Obviously, many managers were bidding for this, and by far there was managers that had more experiences from really, really top clubs that were in this search. I did a huge amount of work on Baltusrol, and I knew there was issues because I asked for the financials. I said, boy, there's a drop here, there's this here. I reached out to some of the managers around there, and so I did my homework.
Right.
And when I went in there, I said, I'm going to be very transparent and honest in this. In my walkthrough that I did, I was shocked to see the shape of what the club was in. It just needed a lot of maintenance, deferred. And in my interview process, I talked about that. And Larry, I thought I was going to be done. I'm going into one of the most iconic clubs in the world, and I'm giving him a negative
Right. Right.
comments about it. Um, that got me to the next level. So
Yeah, so
the
I just to pause on that for a sec. I mean, just listening to this journey, I mean, so a couple of things strike me. The importance of actually meeting some people in person when they just want to do a phone call. Going back to where you went over to Western Mass, you had that thing. I mean, and then flying down to Miami for 10 minutes, which turned into a half hour. And also being true to yourself and true to what you're seeing. I mean, I imagine having been I mean, I'm not at the club I'm involved with is certainly not Baltusrol, but having been on search committees, for our club here in Los Angeles, having that kind of candor, I mean, that comes across really well. I mean, but it takes a little courage because, like you were just saying, I mean, you're walking into absolutely one of the most iconic clubs, and you're going, just again for listeners to appreciate this, you're going from the club in Western Massachusetts to Hartford Golf Club, which of course, as you and I have talked about offline, I mean, I grew up literally across the street from Hartford Golf Club in West Hartford, so I know it very well. Excellent club, and deep ties, long history, insurance executives, for Hartford. But now you're going to Baltusrol, which is, and you're in the Metropolitan Golf Association area where there's nothing, there's tremendous clubs in northern New Jersey, and Baltusrol's right at the top of the mountain. So quite a journey. But again, I just going back, I mean, the candor, I'm sure played really well. But that takes a little courage to do.
Larry was a gamble, and it paid off.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it was. Well, I can imagine what that room was like. You're saying all this, and it's resonating with people because when you say those things, people say, yeah, that's right. They're all proud of their club, and justifiably so. It is truly one of the iconic clubs in the world. But I'm sure that resonated with them.
Well, again, I knew there was something that triggered this.
Right.
And then in the interview process, they talked about losing all 36 greens in 1999.
Wow. All 36. Yeah.
All 36. That's a crisis.
Oh my God, sure is. Yeah.
That crisis the club handled so well. They said, okay, this has happened. Now it's our responsibility to correct this short term and long term. And that takes leadership, that takes vision. So I was coming into something where it was kind of a reset.
Yep.
And they said, okay, we need to get Baltusrol to where it belongs. So that wasn't an argument. That wasn't a challenge.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm hired if that doesn't happen.
Interesting.
So we were able, and I came in 2003, we were able to say, okay, from a leadership standpoint, from the top, we have to treat this more like a business. And we have to do right for a club of the level of a Baltusrol. It took us a couple of years even to get a mission and vision statement because we just had to figure out some things. And there were some things in the beginning that we had to get right away. They weren't happy with their food and beverage program. And if you went in the kitchen, you could see that there was so much deferred maintenance. The kitchen was too small, and that needed to be addressed if we wanted to give them that elevated experience. It was not really functional. We also had to change the chef. So as managers, we get associated very closely with the food and beverage program. You better get that right.
100%.
Yeah. So I went in a different um, direction, again, from the restaurant business. Uh, what I wanted to do was bring in a restaurant chef, not a club chef. And it just happened that I hired a banquet manager beforehand. I was doing a national search, so I was down at the Green Bar talking to their chefs and everybody else for that. The event manager, Judy Sear, said, I came from the Burnins Inn, and Chef Stone really, really is a quality chef. I said, do you think he would be open to a conversation? She goes, I don't know, I'll call him. And he was. We hit it right off from the beginning. It was funny. He was finishing my sentences. I was finishing his.
That's great.
He was a partner at the Burlington. So we had to navigate that a little bit. But
Yeah,
I knew he was well known by the membership as well.
that helps a lot.
Correct. I had to promise him a new kitchen. And to this day, I'm not 100% sure I promised it before I talked to the board or after I talked to the board. Um, but I was a little bit desperate. I said, look, I have to take care of this. That's one of the first projects we did. And the chef was involved in that. That changed the dynamic of where we want to go.
Hmm.
They saw some results in the beginning of
Hmm.
doing the kitchen and giving a higher quality food program. We put the business model together, but we were also disciplined. We knew we couldn't get all this done at one time. Great leadership of the board, and we started changing the dynamics of the team. And we put a vision together. We put a master plan together, put a long range plan together, all before clubs were doing this, and many clubs do that now.
Right.
And through the process, they saw the value. Through the process, they saw better results. We just continued on that journey for over 2 decades, to a point where Baltusrol is just a well-run club. It's alignment with the board and the professional staff, and it continually looks to better itself. And I was happy to be a part of that.
That's awesome. So I know along the way, and I obviously come at this more from the golf standpoint, and just again to for people who I'm sure everyone's heard of Baltusrol, but just for people who may not know the details, two Tillinghast courses. The only other course that off the top of my head comes to mind that has two courses of that quality, and that's what I should say. It's not just two courses; it's two courses of that quality. I mean, my friends at LA Country Club, Mike Beam will forgive me for saying this. I mean, it's the iconic club, great club. North Course is the star. The South Course, which is a tremendous amount of fun to play that Gil Hansfree did. But you have, like Wingfoot, which is the only other club that comes to mind, two courses like LA North, two championship level courses. And you've obviously, hosted the club so many major championships. It's got that DNA in it that it's willing to provide to the USGA and the PGA the setting for US Opens, PGAs, et cetera. So tremendous golf history there. Two Jack Nicklaus US Opens, 1980 famously, so lots of golf lineage there. But you spent a lot of money on capital projects, right? Including Gil Hanse, who, is the leading architect, certainly today, of when it comes to restoration stuff. I mentioned LA Country Club. He's done work there. He's done work at the Country Club in Brookline, all over the place, Marion and Baltusrol. What was that like to go through that kind of extensive work to sort of touch up both the upper and lower courses?
So we started that process 2017, 2018, preparing for that. I went out to Erin Hills to meet with Gil. They were doing the Open,
Right.
and he was commentating there, and he said, "Okay, Ken, this is kind of a trend in my life. I can give you a half hour."
You get short bits of time. You travel lots of miles for short bits of time, but
I
you
just
take
need to get
advantage
into
of
the
it.
room, Larry. If I
Yeah,
get in
yeah.
the
To
room,
get in the
I'm
room,
good.
that is a totally important lesson. We sit here in this internet age and stuff like that, but getting in the room makes a difference, right?
And such a genuine person.
Yeah,
What you see behind closed doors and out in the open is the same person.
yeah,
He really is a really, really, really good person that is talented.
yeah.
So we had that conversation, and he started with, Kevin, if you're looking for somebody right away, I can't be your guy. I already have things booked. And my response was, we're looking for somebody for the next 20, 25 years. That's what Baltusrol is all about, those type of relationships. So it's not about the next couple of years. It's bringing in a golf course architect that will be with us for that long. And we tried to interview all the others, and we quickly realized we weren't interviewing them. They were interviewing us because they're so busy.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine.
But we went right with Gil in a very short period of time.
Not surprising.
And
Yeah,
again, vision and leadership of the board. This was going to be a golf architect centric design or program, and it was going to be a restoration. We're
right,
going back to the Killing House,
right.
and Gil is very good at those type of restoration.
I would say the best there is. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. And so it was just, we're going to do this. We did great communications with the membership. They knew several years because long-range planning, master planning, strategic planning, this was on the docket. This wasn't something that was coming to them in a short period of
So
time.
you brought the membership along through the whole planning process. You didn't just drop this on them, it sounds
No,
like.
I think we've always had that relationship with the members. The admissions process of Baltusrol with members is not about who you are or what you do, is that you fit the culture and the brand of Baltusrol. And the admissions process does a great job with that. So the members understand what they're joining and have a great amount of respect. It's our job to make sure that we're giving them that value proposition and the amenities and the experience. That's our job. Their job is they're joining a club with that tradition, that history, that culture. Once you have that alignment, then you just need to communicate what you're doing and why you're doing it. The why was we needed to get back to what Killing House designed,
Right.
and it was needed. Uh, the challenge is in a couple things. So when we talk about adversity, we talk about, how this started when I came aboard. 2019 to 2024, the club went through some more adversity, but it was built and prepared to handle that. 2019 in July, we had roofers working on the clubhouse roof. They had a grinder. They sparked a
Oh
spark,
boy.
went
Oh
under
boy.
the slate,
Oh boy.
and we had a fire.
Yeah.
The the fortunate part of this is that we have hotel rooms, guest rooms on the top floor, so the attic had to be sprinklered. That helped out
I
tremendously
bet. Yeah.
of containing. And the first fire truck on was the water truck. They went right up to the roofers' ladders. They didn't need ladders; they were already there, and they distinguished it. And so, if you looked at it, you say, "Okay, we have a problem here, but what scope of a problem?" We had a crisis management program already in place, so we activated that. And that's really, you need that because you're a little numb right now in saying, okay, this is happening. And you have to put things right into play, whether it's a communication plan to the media, to your members. Also, getting, Serve Pro and everybody right away. Those phone calls have to happen, which we did. Because of the water, 3 floors caved in
Mm.
to it. So it was big, but we really didn't realize how big it was until we went further down the road. The biggest thing was environmental. Even though we brought ServPro right in because we lost power, it was 100 degrees the next couple of days,
Oh boy.
and mold and things like that set in.
Sure.
Lo and behold, um, it was a big project. We had got 45,000 square feet of the clubhouse,
Wow.
and it was a $15 million project
Wow, that is huge.
that started July. We got part occupancy to our club, so we still were able to function, and we built a chalet. But that's adversity,
Yep.
and we already planned that it was July, November. We're closing the lower for 18 months. So you got a clubhouse that half the clubhouse is under construction, and you're closing the lower for 18 months, which means you only have one golf course coming that season. More adversity. COVID hits.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And so it's March now. We have two major construction jobs going on that have to be shut down because of COVID.
Oh boy. Yeah.
And you're in a time frame. Uh,
Yep.
so the difference between clubs or leaderships, you need to be proactive, not reactive. So we were figured out, okay, part of a loophole, if you have open space, you still can do construction. But lo and behold, Larry, we had a lot of open space. So we were able to continue to do it. Uh, the complete restoration or renovation of the clubhouse, it took about 14 months. But we were able to take care of a lot of problems that when you're gutting something of a clubhouse that's well over 100 years old, you get to correct things. And of course, the restoration proved out to be very successful too.
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
communicated with the members, but it was adversity. And again, a year and a half from now, we're doing the same for the upper, shutting down for 18 months. So it was a lot for the members to digest.
A lot. Yeah.
Um, the membership was great because that culture that we kept on pounding for decades, that brand, those experiences all helped us when we were going through that type of adversity.
Having that sort of alignment is so key with the
Yeah, I
members
did
and
have to
stuff.
explain a little bit of why the roofers were up there. That came on me a little bit, as it should. Uh, I can tell you, we ended up saying we're having a roofing company that specializes in slate that doesn't use power tools. We had to go all the way to Connecticut to get a company
Oh,
like that.
wow.
They
Okay.
still today are working on the clubhouse.
Wow. Wow. That's fantastic. Um, I mentioned all the major championships throughout the history, but a couple occurred during your 22 years there. I think, if I'm remembering, a 2005 PGA, which Phil had won, or Phil did win, and then I think Jimmy Walker in 2016. So you had two major championships during your tenure. Just maybe talk, what is that like when you're, running a club and something like the PGA Championship with all that that involves comes to town? What was that experience like?
Well, I'm going to correct you first of all. I
Okay.
experienced four majors. Again, branding
Oh,
culture. We did the
yeah.
boys juniors and the
Yeah, yeah. I
ladies.
was just thinking of the men's majors, but you're right.
Right.
There are other majors.
But the reason why I say that is we use just as much energy and emphasis on those other two
Yeah,
as
fair
we
enough.
did the men's. Now, the
Yeah,
men's is much larger scope.
yeah.
So you are working much more on logistics. You're working on much more on where you're parking everybody,
Right. I
what the
got it.
traffic routes are going to be, where you're going to put media, where you're going to put food and beverage, which is acres of space you
Right.
need.
Right.
You need pavement for 10,000 cars someplace.
Right.
That's not the easiest thing to do in New Jersey.
No, no, not in northern New Jersey. Yeah.
So it's more overwhelming, and clubs aren't built for that. So even plan A's of having 35,000 people come a day, those are built for stadiums that have all that infrastructure
Right.
to do. Clubs aren't built that way. So plan A's are challenging. If you have to go to plan B's, it's terrible, but sometimes you do. Uh, but I can tell you the experience was fantastic. It's what Baltusrol is part of. We've been in the major business since the early 1900s.
Yeah, for sure.
The membership knows that. It's part of the admissions process. It's part of our culture. We have something that's called the three truths. The three truths are what our founder, Lewis Keller, put together. And the first was the building of the dual golf course, the Tilling golf courses. Vision. Um, they blew up a championship golf course that hosted opens to build the dual golf courses. That takes
Hmm.
vision.
It sure
And
does.
you're right. Now they have two phenomenal golf courses. Who does that during that time?
Right.
The second thing is they're going to be the leading club at the leading um, um, city in the country. So that's about the clubhouse, which they built. Who built a clubhouse like that in that time? That's a vision for that. And the third truth is Baltusrol is going to be in the major business. That resonated with us that if they could have those visions that early, well, we need to understand that really is part of our mission and vision statement going forward. So we stuck with that and hosting majors. Um, they were in August, which you can have thunderstorms or
Right.
heat.
Right.
In 2005, it was 100 degrees. It was just brutal for that, and we had some thunderstorms. Matter of fact, we were the first time that the PGA had to go into Monday.
I was going to
Uh,
say I remember Phil playing 18 and having getting up and down for the birdie from the
yeah,
front of the green on Monday. Right.
yeah. So once you go into Monday, first of all, everybody is spent.
Right.
Everybody's been working
Right.
100 hours, but you lose all your volunteers.
Right. That's
So
right.
now it's Monday.
That's a good point.
You
Yeah.
you have to suck it up and get through it, which we did. Fast forward to 2016, same thing. August, weather was a problem. Thunderstorms were a real problem. Saturday, we really didn't get any golf in. So we had, and Kerry Haig was fantastic.
Yeah.
He's just so knowledgeable and deals with it. And you never can tell with Kerry whether he's having a good day or bad day. He's just,
I
laying
know.
back
Yeah.
and for
And I think
that.
the most talented guy setting up golf courses for any major. I mean, he does a great job for that.
No
Yeah, for the PGA.
question.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I was able to work with him because I just think of the world with Kerry. And honestly, the PGA and the USGA are just fantastic associations. And the same thing, it's now Sunday, and the weather for Sunday was worse than Saturday.
Mm,
That's the forecast, at least. And so Saturday night, I'm in a meeting with our people and People of Aqua in Kerry and saying,
hmm
it doesn't even look like we're going to get in tomorrow either.
mm.
Sometimes the gods are on your side. It's pouring rain all around us, but except for Baltusrol.
Wow. Wow.
And he went off two keys to get it done, and we are able to get it done in Sunday. And Jason Day put a push on,
Yeah.
and I'm just praying that we're not going into a playoff.
Playoff. Right. Right.
And we didn't,
Right.
and we got it all done, and that was great for that. But very few people get to experience that, and I was
Yeah.
fortunate to experience that, and it's lifetime experiences of hosting
Absolutely.
a major.
So 20, just to wrap up Baltusrol before I want to ask you a couple of more general questions. So 22 years, great run. I know how much, you enjoyed it. I mean, you look back, is there any kind of one thing that would kind of look as your most significant accomplishment as you kind of look back on your 22 years? What would you say that is?
Well, I recognized that I was going to be part of a special place that had great history tradition. So right from the beginning, I wanted to make sure that I was part of that culture, that I represented the club correctly. And in the very beginning, it had to be that alignment, that team-based, challenge ourselves, do it the correct way, the professional way. if I had to tell you of the question that you're asking, I would say that I helped make it a better place, and they appreciated it. And I found that when I was retiring, how appreciative they were, and that was mutual. And you could see there's three things that make a great club, Larry. First of all, the facilities, right? You have to have the facilities, you have to have the golf courses, and you have to keep those up and improve those and add on to them as time goes on. That's one. The second thing is the membership. You have to have a membership that believes in your club. It's their club. They own it. They look at it as the loyalty of it. And Baltusrol did a great job through the time on that. And the third is staff. The staff you have to have as much member as you do on the member value proposition, the employee value proposition. If you have those three at a high level, you're going to be pretty special. And I understood that. And so did the club. And I would tell you at the end of my career, I look at all three of those buckets and say, boy, we've done a really good job. So it was an overall experience,
Yeah.
but I was really happy how we are with the culture of that club.
Yeah.
It really is. It's easy to from good to great, in my opinion. It's difficult to stay there consistently. And we were able to consistently stay at that great level.
That's fantastic. So you're kind of retired now, but you got your hand in a few things. You're doing, I know, speaking of going back to Boston, the club benchmarking with those guys who, come from that part of the country as well. Also doing some consulting. You also, I know over the years you had, roles with the National Club Association Board. So just putting Baltusrol aside and just looking at clubs generally, because you're so well, you have such strong knowledge in the club business generally, and now you're kind of consulting and stuff. Let me kind of ask you a couple more general questions and get your thoughts on this. What do you sort of, what are the best clubs? And you probably can touch on this a little bit because Baltusrol is one of the best clubs, but what do the best clubs get right? And when you look at other clubs, what are sort of the common pitfalls or mistakes you might see that other clubs struggle with?
Yeah. So one of the things I made sure I do through my career was network with the best. And that's why I was with the National Club Association for 9 years because they associated with the best. So I was able to experience whether it was with board members or other club managers. I did the same with platinum clubs. I was
Hmm.
on their advisory board for 16 years. And I also chaired the committee that was the selection of the best executive of the year
Mm.
with the McMahon Group. I did
Hmm.
that purposely so I could see firsthand and network. I wasn't a big believer in managing Baltusrol for individual accomplishments, but it was more about the industry or clubs. So I wanted to make sure I did that. And I can tell you, first of all, clubs that are successful, they have a couple things in common. They're proactive, not reactive. And if you're proactive, you're going to take some risk on. You look at vision, you look at strategy. You're always looking to improve. And how do you do that? And that has gotten more complicated over the years with clubs. To improve things, you have to have money. So you have to have a strategy of capital. I would tell you that clubs that really look at this, they don't look at the operational ledger. That is insignificant in many ways. You have to look at your capital, your assets, and look at it from that standpoint. The clubs that do that understand, okay, here's our 10-year layout, here's our 5-year layout. How are we going to keep on improving for that? They put best in class practices in place. If you don't have it in writing, it doesn't mean anything. Because if you don't have it in writing, do you really have a process? Do you really have a procedure? Do you really have something that can transition from board to board?
Right.
I had 9 presidents in my time. I had nine
Yeah.
treasurers. If
Yeah.
we didn't have a process in place, you could go off the rails pretty quick, no matter how good you think you are. So I think the clubs that really get it well, they have best in class policies and procedures. They have a strong strategic plan. They have a vision of the club. They have core pillars of what they represent on that. And you don't change your core pillars, those things that you really have to pay attention to. It seems the clubs that really get it right have those things in place.
And in terms of, I totally, everything you're saying really resonates with me in terms of having things in writing. Is it a, besides just a strategic plan, is it sort of a board policy manual or sort of like, what do you sort of, what's the repository of the stuff that can go from president to president to president?
Yeah, it really is. First, you have that policy, job descriptions, organizational chart, roles and responsibilities, how you conduct board meetings, all that needs, it doesn't have to happen all at once, but you need to get to those levels for that. Uh, reviews of the senior management, review of the board. So everybody is challenging it. So if you challenge if everybody's to a point where we challenge ourselves, it's just not the board challenging professional staff or senior managers challenging frontline staffs, challenging the board as well. That alignment, um, it works out better. And it's not a negative at that point. It's just part of the process for that. I think that clubs that have that type of, so it's not just strategic. You need to have master plans, and you need to have discipline of what are the priorities. It comes down to a couple things, really basic. You need to do what's right for the club, what's right for the club, and that can be hard sometimes.
Yeah.
Closing golf courses for 18 months was right for the club for that. You also have to show results. It's like any other business. We're in the result business. Why are you doing it? And you have to show results. If you don't show results, something's wrong. There's a mistake being made on there. There's risk. Look at, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes. And all that means is, okay, you correct it and you move on. But in my 20 plus years at Baltusrol, did I make mistakes? Of course I did. I just made sure they weren't part of when my bonus was coming. So I was good at timing.
Timing, well, you said that right at the top. Timing is everything, right? In so many ways in life. Hey, Kevin, this has been great. I really appreciate you sharing all this with you. And again, congratulations on just a phenomenal run at Baltusrol. I know, you're still doing stuff in terms of the consulting and everything, but hopefully getting a chance to enjoy the little less, a little more time to enjoy things because I know what an all-encompassing job Baltusrol was. I
I wouldn't change
hope you're
anything for
enjoying
the
stuff.
world. I'm so appreciative of Baltusrol. Uh, it was it changed my life,
Yeah,
right? It just changed my life,
absolutely.
and the experiences. So they made me a member, Larry.
Wonderful. Congratulations. They should, but
Yeah, and so
congratulations.
I'll
That's
bring you as a
wonderful.
guest, Larry.
I'm writing that down. We've got it. We've got it on tape, right? So I'll
Right,
remember
if you
that.
survive what you're going through with your club, yeah, then
Well, yeah. Well, I may need to escape to the East Coast to protect myself. But
yeah.
Kevin, this has been great. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it,
Thank you, Larry.
and
I
best of luck
appreciate
to
it. It
you.
was
And
fun doing it with you.
we'll look forward to teeing it up. Hopefully at Baltusrol one of these days.
Sounds great, Larry. Thank you for the time.
Thank you.